Hi guys, this is Maverick Paul, the Chemistry Guru. Now in this video, we want to go through the suggested solution for 2019 A-Levels H2 Chemistry, Paper 1, Question 17. Now question 17 goes something like this. Ethers have the general structure R1O, R2, where R1 and R2 are hydrocarbon groups. So therefore R1 and R2 has to be carbon. So what is the lowest number of carbon atoms an ether molecule must contain to have a chiral carbon atom? So we are given 4 options. A is 4, number of carbon, B is 5, C is 6, D is 7 number of carbon atoms for this ether molecule to have chiral carbon. So this question requires a little bit of permutation. Now we know that chiral carbon is a carbon bonded to 4 different groups. It is asymmetrical, correct? So we will want to focus on the chiral carbon. So what we do is we will draw out this carbon first. And I know that I want to make this carbon chiral. So therefore this carbon must be bonded to 4 different groups. So what we do is actually pretty simple. I just try to put 4 different groups around carbon and fulfilling the criteria that I have an ether functional group. Now, if I want this carbon to have 4 different groups, then, keeping in mind, I want the number of carbon to be as low as possible. The first thing that I can put down will be hydrogen. Because this hydrogen will take up 1 slot out of these 4 different groups, and this hydrogen, it doesn't contribute to this carbon number, right? So this will keep the carbon number to a minimum. Then the next thing we will have to do is we will have to consider the functional group, because the criteria is I need this guy to be an ether functional group. So ether, it is carbon bonded to oxygen bonded to another carbon. So the smallest possible ether that I can form will be this carbon bonded to oxygen bonded to another carbon. So the smallest possible ether that I can form will be involving this R group with only 1 carbon. There's no need for me to make this carbon bigger, because if this is a 2 carbon, 3 carbon, 4 carbon, or if it increases any further, I will still have to put carbon here. So therefore, it is not necessary for me to make this carbon or this R group big. I just keep it to the minimum, again, so that I can have the lowest number of carbon atoms inside this entire compound. So this guy, I just need it to have only 1 carbon. So this is the second group attached to this chiral carbon. Now the remaining 2 groups will have to be carbon, correct? So what I'll have to do is the first R group that I put in will have the minimum number of carbons involved. Obviously, this will be a 1 carbon group. I just put in the methyl group to make this methyl group different from this O carbon group, which is the ether functional group, and this hydrogen. And finally, we have 1 more group. Now this group, which also contains carbon, it must be different from this methyl group, and it has to be slightly bigger than this methyl group. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to put an ethyl group, a 2 carbon group, which is the next smallest group that I can put in. So this will be a 2 carbon group. So by focusing on my chiral carbon, and I try to minimize the number of carbons I can put in to form my compound, then naturally I will have an outcome with the lowest number of carbon atoms. Remember, we start with the chiral carbon, and based on whatever criteria that is mentioned in the question, we try to draw out from there. So once we have decided that this is the compound that we want, then we go and count the total number of carbon atoms here. So I have 1 carbon, 2 carbon, 3 carbon, 4 carbon, 5 carbons in total. So therefore, the lowest number of carbon atoms this guy must have to contain a chiral carbon atom will be 5. So therefore, the answer to this question obviously will be option B. Alright, so that was the discussion involving question 17. Again, question 17, it is a pretty simple exercise. Based on the criteria given in the question, I just want to draw a chiral carbon which is consistent with all the requirements that is mentioned inside this question. So if you have learned something useful from this video, please give me the thumbs up, like this video, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more weekly video lessons. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.